mirror. Obviously, this one is a scrying mirror, but you out there own a mirror. It sits upon your wall or on your table. But what lies behind that mirror? What is there that you can't see? And in this video, I'm going to tell you a story about a mirror and what I saw lying behind it. So if you're not scared of mirrors, join me in my story. What is a mirror? What is it, guys? Is it just a piece of glass that you have a backing on and you look into it and it reflects back? But how do you know the true reflections are not standing there with you? Not always can we see the unseen, but does it mean it's not there? Well, when I was about 13 years old, we had quite a thing with this mirror. There was a particular mirror which belonged to my mother, which was a hairbrush, comb and mirror set, very old, had been passed down through the family. And obviously, even though I was 13, I liked it. It was very, very beautiful. It was made out of shells and had a sort of shimmer to it. And when you turned it over and looked into the mirror, there was obviously some damage to it because it was very old. And my mother never really used it. It just sat on her dressing table. So when she was having her clean up one day, she saw my interest in it and said, "Would you like this? You can have the set for your dressing table." And I said, "Yes, I'd love that," and took it, thinking no more of it. Now, for those of you who do not know my background, I grew up knowing spirit, feeling spirit, hearing spirit. And when I saw things, no one in the house wanted to admit it was true. So it was quite difficult for me with these abilities because nobody believed me, and I grew up thinking that I was just different to everybody else. So when I took the mirror, and I really loved it, I was looking into it, holding it in my hand and just looking into it, and I just suddenly came over very much like, not a trance, but you know when you stare and you can't stop staring, and I was in that mode. I just couldn't pull myself out of it. And I'm looking into the mirror thinking, what am I doing? And I saw behind me a mist gathering, and it was getting dark. And of course, I didn't like it, and I pulled myself out of it and I pushed it onto the table thinking, what on earth was that? I didn't want to look into it for a little while because I didn't understand what was going on. But what I could find out was the mirror had belonged to my great grandmother. And she had passed it down to her daughter, and then her daughter passed it down to my mother. And my mother passed it to me. So there was a family tie to it. Now this mirror apparently had been given to her as a leaving present. She was a maid in a house, and when she retired, left, she was given the mirror from the lady of the house. And when she gave it to her, she said to her, apparently, now don't quote me on this guys, but this is how we found out, because my great-grandmother had told the story to her daughter and vice versa. So like Chinese whispers, things can get distorted, but the main gist of the story was that the old lady that passed it, the lady of the house, passed it to her. She was a bit stuck up, a bit, I've got it all and you're just my servants. So begrudgingly, instead of buying a present, they gave the mirror to my great-grandmother and said, or she said, I will never be far away from you. I will always be there watching you. What a strange thing to say to somebody. And my great-grandmother went home happy, and she kept the mirror and put it on her dresser. But apparently she used to get bad feelings every time she touched it. So at one point she actually covered it up and didn't want it on her dresser. She felt like how she'd felt when she was in that house with the lady of the house, watching her do her chores around the house. She would turn up and just watch her. When she started to feel there was something strange about the mirror, she also found out that the lady of the house had passed away, that she had been on the Titanic and never made it back. She had become so cold that it had overtaken her and she had passed away. And so what she said to my great-grandmother obviously drew her, and I feel she got sucked in to that mirror, that hand mirror, and that her spirit was present within it. So the legacy started. My great-grandmother had only ever done her job. She'd never been horrible to anybody in the household. She was well liked, and I think this is what upset the old lady. I think she was jealous, and so she wanted to start something that wasn't nice. So coming back to when I was 13 and this gift had been given to me, I said to my mother, "Did you ever use that set, Mum?" To which she replied, "No." "Funnily you say that," she said. "My mum didn't like it either. She liked it," she said, "but as long as she didn't turn the mirror over or use the comb or anything like that." I said, "Oh, okay." She said, "Why?" "I don't know. She's got a funny feeling about it." She said, "Yeah, the family all felt like that. But we don't want to get rid of it because it's part of the family. It's an heirloom. So if you don't want it," she said, "I'll put it into storage." And I laughed and I said, "That's fine, Mum, that's fine." And I kept it on my dresser. I didn't turn it over. I didn't look at it. But that is not where the story ends. Because I started to get horrible dreams. Dreams that I was being chased around the house. I'd be walking out of my bedroom and I would be walking towards the staircase, and then all of a sudden there'd be an old lady standing at the top of the next flight, and she would be screaming at the top of her lungs, and I would try to run. And you know what it's like, guys, in a dream. You're trying and trying to run, but you're not getting anywhere. But the thing that you're running from is getting nearer. So I ran back into my bedroom in the dream and tried to open my window. And we had like sash windows which you just pulled up and locked. And as I'm trying to climb out of the window, she's there in my bedroom. And as I turn around to look to see who it is, I wake up. I wake up out of breath, sweating and frightened. So I run up to my mum's room and had another dream, Mum. To which she said, is there something bothering you? Because why are you getting these bad dreams? I said, I don't know. I really don't know. But they're horrifying. So, this became a pattern. I'd get a few nights where everything was fine, and then I'd get the dream again. And then one day it furthered on, and when I turn round and she's there, she looks at me and says, the mirror, the mirror. I woke up and my mirror fell off of the dresser that it was on, onto the floor. And I thought, oh no, it might have smashed. I picked it up and turned it round. And I wished I hadn't. It was still intact, but there in the mirror was not me looking into it, but her looking into me. And it's like her eyes were black and they were staring straight into the very inner part of me. I went ice cold and I dropped the mirror onto my bed, and I ran out of my room and went downstairs and sat in the living area just till the morning. Of course, my mother noticed that I wasn't eating and I wasn't sleeping, and I didn't know what to do. This was one of the pitfalls of having mediumistic abilities, and we can see and feel things that others can't, and so people don't understand what it feels like. I knew I had to do something, and this was in the days where I didn't know much about witchcraft and I didn't know much about cleansing and things like that. So I found a book at the library, would you believe? And it was How to Protect Yourself from Unseen Things. And I thought, well, in for a penny, in for a pound. Let's find a way to deal with this. And I took the book home and I went up to my bedroom and I started to read it. And as I was reading it, it all made sense. It says to put salt around the place where you're getting problems. It said to cover mirrors, not just hide them away. Any mirror in the house would be open to this entity, jumping from there into the mirrors. And that is what happened. My sister was in the bathroom and combing her hair into the mirror when she suddenly screamed. And my mother ran in and she said, "What's wrong?" She said, "There was an old lady looking at me in the mirror." She said, "Oh, don't be ridiculous, Irene. How can that be?" So, family were then getting all these little things where they were seeing weird stuff in the mirrors. The mirror in the kitchen, the mirror in the living room. We had a big mirror over the fireplace in the living room. And that I didn't dare look into when I came into the room. I started to avoid looking at them because I couldn't tell my mother, "You need to cover all the mirrors or take them down." So I knew I had to deal with this alone, and I had to do it fast. My grandmother had passed, so I didn't have her. I just had my mother. And I was really scared. I didn't know what I was dealing with, why this old lady was so upset. So I decided to try to talk to her. So this particular night, I read in the book that If you did it late at night, you had more way of communicating. And I had to stop myself from feeling scared, because that would only make her more aggressive. So I tried to think of her as my grandmother, of a loving person, someone who needed help. And I looked into the mirror, holding it in my hand. And I said, if you are there, will you communicate with me? Will you talk to me? For I feel you need to speak to somebody about how you're feeling. I heard a voice in my head, and it sort of said, in other words, mind your own business. To which I said, if that's you, I want to help. I want to help you. You are stuck in my mirror. After a little while, I thought, nothing's happening. I suddenly saw her in the mirror, but not as this angry old lady, but as a beautiful woman in fine clothes. And she said, I died. To which I said, I know. I'm so sorry that you did die. What is keeping you here? And she said, I've had time to think. I was horrible to people. And I just wanted to say that I'm sorry, but I can't find my way. I can't find my way to where I want to go. I said to her, the way is in the light. I used to use this light that I'd had in a dream that had taught me when I was younger how to help spirit. If you say to them, look for the light, and they haven't seen it because they've been oblivious to it, because they are stuck in their thought process. She said to me, I need to say sorry. So I said to her, you can, because my great-grandmother is in the place you go when you pass away. I said, but you're stuck and you need to let go. She said, well, I want to see it and I can't see it. So I thought, I know. She's looking at me from the mirror. So if I get a candle or I turn the light on, she might see the light. So I got my lamp and I held it near and I switched it on and I said, this is like the light. You need to look for the light. And she turned away so that her back was facing me in the mirror. And she looked. And I saw the light, guys. I saw it in the mirror. It was so bright. And there it was. To which she turned around and looked at me and said, I'm sorry I scared you. And she turned around and the light went and she was gone. It was a relief, I can honestly tell you. I was terrified. I had to go downstairs and spend the night down there again, even though she'd gone, because I was shaking. I had to make myself a hot milky drink to get myself thinking something different. And I realised that ever since I was young, I've been seeing these spirits that are lost, that they're stuck, that they need help. And is that what my purpose was? To aid these people, to see them for who they really were, not how they're presenting themselves now. Because when they're upset, their energy is wild, their anger or their confusion turns into distress. And so I made it my business to start to learn about all of this. And that is how I started on my path to my mediumship abilities I had to learn how to use them properly. But every time I had something like that happen, I felt really good because I'd helped a spirit to go to its destination, wherever that may be. And you can't wish for more than that. So guys, this Halloween or this Samhain or this whatever festival you might call it, the mirror will speak to you. If you don't want to hear from the mirror, then I suggest you make it your business to cover it up just for that night, for the veil is thin on that night and spirits are with us. But if you are going to play around with mirrors, do make sure not to get too scared if you do see something. Normally it is just spirit trying to communicate with you, and they don't mean you any harm whatsoever. But please do protect yourselves. Use a form of protection, be it casting a circle, salt watering yourself, all sorts of stuff that you can do. And I have many videos on my channel that will teach you how to do these things. So there I'm going to leave it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the story. I'm going to do a few more because people seem to like them. So thank you to my new subscribers. Thank you to those that are always here. If you're watching my content regularly, please consider subscribing. It does help the channel to progress and also gives me the incentive to carry on. So thank you in advance, wherever you are, whatever time of day, night or evening it may be. I wish you the best ever. House of Belang.